Hi there guys, welcome to another episode of the Cover Zero Show with me, your host, Simon Conboy. Thank you very much for checking us out. Carrying on with my franchise and draft review series here. For those who haven't seen one of these before, I'm going through the last 10 years of the team's drafts, grading each individual pick, going through the team's overall record in that time frame, highlighting playoff appearances, that kind of thing, and any head coaching changes that have occurred. Friday's episode this week is going to be a special weekly review where I collate all that data, bring it all together, come to some conclusions so we can try and see how much truth there is to the idea that drafting leads to overall team success. This episode's focusing on the Seattle Seahawks. So this team's really rose to prominence, of course, in the last few years under Pete Carroll. Very mediocre at the start of the decade being covered. They've steadily built one of the best rosters in the league. Mike Holmgren's last 2 years, 2007 to 2008. Then they had Jim Mora for a disastrous season, and Pete Carroll has been the coach ever since. In that time frame, this franchise has amassed 89 wins with 70 losses and one tie, coming last year against the Cardinals in that bizarre 6-6 game. In that time frame, 5 division titles, most of them coming recently. Lost a Super Bowl, of course, and also won a Super Bowl against the Pats and the Broncos, respectively. So, period of success, of course, at the minute. Super Bowl window appears to be thoroughly open. Let's see how much the draft process has been a factor there. So, what I'm doing here is I'm going to get the first 3 rounds of each of these drafts, grade each individual pick. If the pick was solid and worked out, good pick, they will get a score of +1. If it's a mediocre pick, it's middling, fine, and will not affect the score. If the player was a bust, they will suffer a -1 penalty. If in rounds after the third, 4 through 7, I'll be going through value picks. Of course, most of these players don't actually have any impact in the league, so any that do, I will highlight them. They will add +1 as a value pick. First rounders being graded a little more harshly as well, so bear that in mind as I go through the list. So 2007, no first rounder for Seattle there. In the second, Josh Wilson, the defensive back, had an okay career. No grade there, not solid, not bust, fine. In the third, Brandon Mebane, defensive tackle. He's been a good player for them for a while. A lot of people probably not too sure who he is, but solid player, great pick in the third. That definitely gets a solid. On to the 2008 draft, we've got Lawrence Jackson, the first round defensive end, 28th overall. He was a bust, did nothing with his career. In the second, John Coulson, the tight end, gave them a couple of solid seasons. Could go bust there. I'm just going to go mediocre though. Probably not quite enough to be a bust. A couple of late round value picks though. Red Bryant, defensive tackle, big old nose tackle. Got some good years out of him as a rotational player. And in the 7th, Justin Forsett, the running back. He's had a very good career for a 7th rounder. He will also go down as a value pick. Moving on to 2009. Oh, I remember this first rounder. 4th overall, linebacker Aaron Curry. Everyone was going nuts about him in the process leading up to the draft, saying he was the best player in the draft. Absolutely turned out not to be the case. Had a very short, disappointing career. Had to go down as a bust. I thought he was going to be very good as well. I bought into that hype, not going to lie. Second round, centre Max Unger. Great selection. He's been a very good player, now playing for the Saints, not the Seahawks. Part of the Jimmy Graham trade. That was a great selection. That one really worked out. In the third, Dean Butler, a wide receiver. Don't remember this fella doing anything. He goes down as a bust. Moving on to 2010. Oh, for the Friday episode, I'm going to also highlight my favourite and least favourite draft classes. This one has a very good chance of being in that favourite list. This was a superb draft for the franchise. In the first round pick, there's 2 here. With a 6th overall selection, Russell Okung, the tackle. Had some injury problems. When he played, was pretty good. Considering where he was picked, not quite a good enough career for me to give it a solid, but I don't quite think he was a bust for them. I'm just going to give that one mediocre. However, the second first round, this is an easy home run. 14th overall selection, safety Earl Thomas, one of the leaders of that team. He's been great, one of the best safeties in the league. Absolute home run there. In the second, Golden Tate, the wide receiver. He's turned into a good player. Seahawks weren't able to retain his services, but yeah, solid second round pick. Good job there. And in the fifth, Cam Chancellor, the strong safety. Bam Bam Cam, that's a great value pick, of course. Again, one of the best safeties. I mean, just to build, that core Legion of Boom safety pairing in one draft, that's fantastic stuff. So, yeah, great draft there for them. Moving on to 2011, we've got James Carpenter, the tackle/guard. I remember him being selected. That was deemed a bit of a reach. Turned out that was the case. The 25th pick, I think he's been a bust. In the third, guard John Moffitt, not even in the league anymore. He's got to go down as a bust. However, they did a great job with late round picks in this draft. Fourth round, KJ Wright, the linebacker. He goes down as value. The fifth, Richard Sherman. That's a given, one of the top corners in football. He goes down as a value pick. In the sixth, Byron Maxwell, who, whilst he flamed out in Philly, had a couple of good years with the Seahawks, played pretty well last year for the Dolphins as well. For a sixth rounder, that has to go down as value. And in the seventh, Malcolm Smith. Whilst I have raved about how poor he was last year for the Raiders and think one of the worst signings of the off-season in terms of what the Niners gave him, he had some reasonable years in Seattle. For a seventh rounder, it's good enough to get a value pick from me. So, moving on to 2012, this is another really good draft. 15th overall selection, defensive end Bruce Irvin. Not quite good enough to get solid for me, considering where he was drafted. Of course, playing for the Raiders now. Good player, don't get me wrong, but wasn't able to sort of crack that pass rush rotation, which is a very good rotation. You've got Bennett there and Cliff Averill. They're a good pairing. Just not quite good enough to get solid. But a perfectly reasonable pick. No effect on the grade there. In the second, Bobby Wagner. For my money, probably the best linebacker in the league right now. Has to go down as a solid. In the third, Russell Wilson. That's a given. Definitely a solid. Very, very good quarterback. Should continue to be for years to come. And in the seventh, guard J.R. Sweezy. Whilst I don't particularly rate him as a player, I was very unhappy when the Bucs gave him the contract they did before last season. It's a pretty good value pick just to get even a semi-competent lineman. So that has to go down as value in the seventh. Moving on to 2013, Christine Michael, the running back in the second round. I'm going to go with a bust here. I thought, he's had his opportunities. He's shown me probably not good enough, not consistent enough in this league. So that has to go down as a bust for me. In the third, Jordan Hill, defensive tackle. No grade there. It's not really done too much, but there's still time. So I'm not going to give that one a particular grade. And then we've got a few sort of a combination of late round picks that all combine to give one value in Farrell's, or I think it's Farrell, is how it's pronounced. Simon, the defensive back, Luke Wilson, the tight end, and Spencer Ware, the running back, who's now playing for the Chiefs. Of course, Ware, I can't necessarily give him value there because he's playing elsewhere. But I think between the three of them, that definitely is good enough to constitute a value pick. Wilson and Simon being solid depth on this roster. Good job with those late round picks. Moving on to 2014, in the second, Paul Richardson, the wide receiver. He had that one game in the playoffs. However, he's shown nothing outside of that, and there are spots available in that Seahawks rotation. And also, this is a team, if you're good enough, you'll get the opportunity to play. So I think really that he can go down as a bust at this point for me. Same with Justin Britt, the offensive tackle selected in the same round. Major need on this team. He's not worked out for them. That's another bust. 2015, we got no first rounder again. Frank Clark, defensive end. He's quite a good player. Solid part of that rotation. Definitely give that a solid. In the third, Tyler Lockett turned into a very good deep threat. Great return guy. Fantastic value in the third. That also goes down as a solid pick. Last year's draft. Hedged my bets with all these. None of these guys have played quite enough yet for me to give a firm opinion. I can't necessarily believe what I say. So we've got Jermaine Effedi, the offensive lineman, playing guard for them, the 31st pick. Duran Reed, defensive tackle in the second. CJ Procise in the third, who looked really good before the injury. I just need to see a bit more from him, but that could easily turn into a solid if he carries on once he's back doing what he was doing. Also, what is that? Nick VanElt? I'm not sure. My handwriting's terrible there. My apologies. And Reese Ohedembo, apologies for mispronouncing that. Neither of those two have done too much at this point, so no grades attached to last year's Seahawks class. So, totals in the end, 8 solid, pretty reasonable. Not been outstanding with their high picks, but value-wise, 9, which is one of the highest scores. They've done a great job in later rounds, not just with the amount of value picks they've made, but the calibre of some of them. Of course, building pretty much a defensive backfield from it. Yeah, Cam Chancellor, Byron Maxwell, Sherman. That's better than most NFL defensive backfields, and they're all 5th round picks or later, which is incredible stuff. Really, real testament to this team in terms of developing players and also giving players an opportunity to, if they think they can play, to play. I think that's one of the issues a lot of teams have, is some of these late round players. I've got no doubt there's been a lot of players who have come and gone through teams who can probably contribute but haven't been given that opportunity. So great job there. First rounder, only 7 total, and they've not done a great job there either. Only one of them that I've graded as solid, and that was Earl Thomas. A bunch of them have been mediocre. They've not to say they've been bad players, but as I said, Bruce Irvin, Russell Okung, but you're not quite good enough to justify their draft selection as a real solid mainstay pick there. So that's a bit of an anomaly, but fantastic job all round with those late round picks. The value picks alone managed to give them a score of +9, which is one of the better ones that you can really see. The last few years this team's been very good in the draft. That 2010 class in particular looking particularly outstanding. That in 2011 got 7 key players, 5 key players and a couple of other guys that have been contributors. That's a great job there. So yeah, that's why the Seahawks are good right now. Great job there. So do you disagree with my decision here, any of the decisions, or agree with them, want to discuss them? Feel free to do so below. Facebook Cover Zero, find me on Twitter. I'll be happy to get back to anyone who gets in touch. It's always fun to have discussion about this kind of thing. Definitely check out Friday's episode, see where the Seahawks sort of grade out over the past decade against every other team. I think it's going to be a really informative and entertaining episode. I've really enjoyed doing this series. Hope you've enjoyed watching them. If you have, please check out some more of the episodes. I'm sure you'll enjoy those too, or the free agency reviews from last week. I thought they were reasonably good. As always, like, share, subscribe, check out the Patreon, and it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for your time, and as always, go Bucks.